If you on the opposite side of noise, that you wanted to add noise to your CG because your background is noisy and you want the CG to match the background, you could apply the filters to give you extra noise on it. So in this case, you probably would want to add noise to a whole thing. You would add noise to certain AOVs or layers that you want to do. In this case, I have noise coming from Maya that I probably wouldn't want to have. But for example, my original footage has some noise back there. So I want to try to add a bit of noise to my object or to some of my objects. I'm going to try to see what would be the layer that would take some of the noise best. Maybe I'm going to try to see the diffuse layer will take a bit more noise. And for that, you can go again and under the effects type noise, and you're going to get the list of noise options that you have. And you have different ones. There's a bunch of them. There is adding grain or dots and scratches. That would become like if you had some sort of film effect or fractal noise. Which will give you an effect of still kind of cloudy effect. Usually the one that I play with, and there are different ones, I try to work with the noise and hue, lighting, and saturation. And this one gives me a little bit of control over what I wanted to do. And I added to the diffuse layer, and here I can try to add a bit of noise to the diffuse. Let's see if I can show it. I'm going to crank it up a lot just so I can show it. So you can see that if I go very, very high, that adds noise in terms of hue, and the coloring gets a little bit affected to it, which is many times what happens. I can also, I'm going to bring the one back to 0 for now. I can also do it to the lightness, so I can make it, and this one could be like a noise that affects the light of the object. And of course I can do it to the saturation, so this one would be more into the the brightness and the contrast of the object, and going into grays or into colored versions of it. So a combination of them I try to bring up to help with that. So I just crank up the hue a little bit. You see there I just went to 4%, and if I just click it on and off, it's very, very slight difference. That you sort of see a little bit of noise added to there, and I'm going to add a bit of saturation to there. I'm going to say 10% to see what happens, and that added a bit more noise on his color. On his let me just turn it on and off so you can see it. So here it is without it, that is with it. I just got a little bit of noise there. You can add other noises on top of it that will give you additional opportunities to play with your background and try to match it the best you can. That's pretty much it. What it is, adding noise to your object with hue, light, and saturation. Now, if you want to try another one that it would be functional, would be, for example, trying to add the fractal noise. Fractal noise has a slightly different approach that once you create it, it just creates. You can see this kind of like a fractal effect on this case the diffuse layer, and that of course is all driven by different factors here. And the first one, of course, that you want to try to play with is the one that controls the scale of it. Let's see if I can under this transform. I can go under the scale. I can bring it down so that I can try to reduce it. You can keep it very large if you want to add noise to it in a very, very large manner. But I'm going to go down very, very tiny right now, and I can add there, play with the brightness and the contrast, so I can have it more or less, adding some more noise to it or less noise to it. And of course, that allows me to kind of add on top of it. Of course, it doesn't look too good, but that's because the blending mode needs to be changed to, let's say, multiply, or I can just make it to add. So, or you can just try to, and of course you play with the opacity of it, so you can just fine tune it so that the value of the noise that you're adding is just slight little effect on top of what your diffuse is. You can also change, different types of overflow. I like the HDR, that way you have a nice control of the contrast of it. There is ways of kind of like a noise, moving the noise, although this is very tiny, so it's hard to tell. and you know, you can play with the turbulence of it, so kind of like a changes in shape, and you can even animate it if you wanted to. So again, these are options for you to add little noise to. Sometimes you can combine them. You can have this one combined with the HLS or the turbulent noise, and vice versa. But keep it like that for now, and hopefully this gives you some tools for you to add or control or try to blend your CG with the background as much as possible.